Welcome, guys. My name is Jonathan Low, and I am a student doctor at Meharry Medical College, a second-year medical student. And I'm also the CEO of Central Health Solutions, a health tech startup I co-founded last year with my colleague and an executive coach of ours. And I'm here today with my mentor, Dr. Michael Caldwell, and we're here to talk to you guys today about how to moonshot clinical trial diversity. Go ahead, Dr. Caldwell.
Well, moonshot is a term that we've heard a lot before, but we have felt that in order to get to, let's say the moon is no more problem in diversity that we've achieved, we've narrowed the gap in diversity, how can we create the spaceship to get us to the moon and back? And if you use the spaceship that we got right now of all the clinical trial sites around this country, you're not going to be able to get to the moon. We got to change what that spaceship is. We got to change the complexion, the leadership, what the clinical trial landscape looks like. So that's why we said how to moonshot clinical trial diversity, because we want to be able to change what the leadership of the clinical trials are in our country. And that is going to get to the root causes of why there are gaps in diversity right now. So this is why we have there in the first line, building the pipeline and activating Black and diverse physician investigator and leadership teams. So really excited about this, and so happy that you worked with me this summer, and we just can't stop working together. We just every time. So here are some words that we decided to capture as what we want you to remember about what we're doing. It's the leadership, the spirit of 150 years almost of Meharry Medical College. This is very innovative, what we're going to be presenting to you now.
Yeah, shout out class 2026.
Yeah, that's right. You are the 150th anniversary. Wow, we are so lucky. We want not only to do education and training, but to provide access. So once we educate and train these leaders, we want them to actually do work. So we've got to connect them. And so last year we talked to you about the National Center for Clinical Trial Diversity, and we're introducing now an expansion of that, the Global Center for Clinical Trial Diversity. We'll be speaking at the World Vaccine Congress, West Coast, on November 28th at the Santa Clara Convention Center. And I know we have a lot of other important meetings around that. So we've really taken the last year to take your feedback of what we are proposing, and we've improved it. So, Jonathan, why don't you talk a little bit about Meharry Medical College?
So, as you can see on the slide here, it's HBCU that was founded in 1876 in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's the nation's largest private, independent, historically Black academic health sciences center dedicated to educating minority and other health professionals. The college is particularly well known for its uniquely nurturing, highly effective educational programs, emerging. I can't read underneath that.
No, but you know what? From your heart, from your heart. Yeah, let's hear like
Thank
what.
You for that.
Yeah,
Thank
what
you for that.
what does Meharry mean to you and to really?
Yeah,
I would say not only African Americans, but America overall, the spirit.
No, I think that it's very important to people like me who actually never heard of Meharry until they were an adult. I've been to PWIs my whole life.
And we have to let people know what that means.
Oh, predominantly white institutions. We call them PWIs. And
that's as opposed to
an HBCU, which is a historically black college university.
Okay.
And the experience I've had at Meharry, it was like night and day. Not saying I didn't enjoy my experience to the fullest at those PWIs that I've attended, but being at an HBCU, especially when you're basically learning to save people's lives, I think it means something like very special to us to be surrounded by individuals who look like us that are all on the same mission. And I think it goes from, the bottom to the top, from the janitors who are, every single time I walk into West Basic, they say hello. encourage us. They know we have a test that day, so tell us they're praying for us, things like that. Even the people that serve us food are always just so uplifting. And even my classmates, it's very, 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 very encouraging.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you took a few minutes to.
Yes. And
really,
I also like to talk about you as well,
me
briefly. I think it's very important. I think it's very important whenever you feel very comfortable to be around a mentor and that you can be like your authentic self. And just like starting to work with you over the summer, even before then, seeing you show up every time to SFM, regardless if your speaker was there or not, it meant a lot to the class and also meant a lot to me. I just want to say thank you as well for, including me in your lab and, letting me do everything that I've been doing and leading and putting me in these positions of leadership, because you provided me a lot of opportunities to grow in many different ways, like networking-wise, met on the medicinal side, met on the medical side of things, academically. I just want to say like how much I appreciate you. Dr.
Well,
Caldwell.
it's a mutual.
Yes.
So glad that you chose me to work this summer, and it continues and grows. We are now reflecting back to when Dr. Hildreth asked me to join Meharry just over 2 years ago. He says, Michael, please build a partnership between Meharry, the academic environment, and this private clinical research organization called Clinical Research Associates. So initially, I just thought we'd do trials together. But when Sade Foster, other medical student that worked with me last year, came, we were trying to find another way to build a stronger foundational partnership. So she uncovered this op-ed that Michael Bloomberg wrote with our president, James Hildreth. And why don't you review that?
To save Black lives, we need more Black doctors. This is really as simple as that, And I'm pretty sure that almost every African American, at least that I know, could tell you a story about how they've either had a better experience with somebody who looked like them in a healthcare setting, or had a negative experience with somebody who didn't like them in a healthcare setting. And I know personally, and I talked about it in my article for the Tennessean Latino Voices, my mother being from Panama, she's also from African descent, a Black woman. And growing up, we typically shied away from physicians who were not our skin tone, just because of the lack of trust that was inherently there. My father was born before the Civil Rights Act was signed and saw people getting kicked out of African Americans getting kicked out of their homes in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So growing up, being raised by these two individuals, it was kind of ingrained in me that, we kind of look out for ourselves a lot more than other people do, So, no, I completely believe that statement and support it.
So Sade and I, we took the notion that if we had more Black doctors, that would be better for the Black population, because they would go to the doctors that most connected with them. We thought in order to improve clinical trial diversity, maybe let's get to the root causes of it. And the root causes would be if we could just have more Black and diverse physician leader investigators, that would enable us to narrow the gap of clinical trial diversity. Now, last year, April of 2022, we saw the FDA come out with a draft guidance that was historic. For the very first time, they put out guidance, still in a draft form, to ask that every clinical research trial that's done in America now have a racial and ethnic diversity plan. And you could see Caldwell and Foster comments there. That's Sade Foster. We put in comments to try to improve what we saw this draft to be. And what we felt we could do to improve this draft guidance for the racial and ethnic diversity plan from the FDA would be that they should also not only count the patients, volunteers race and ethnicity, but the workforce, the physician investigator leaders and the other workforce. So we thought this was a major step in the right direction, but we offered a specific suggestion, and it's written here on what we thought would not be a burden, but actually a help for us to get to the root causes of how we can improve clinical trial diversity. And Jonathan, we went over this. This is not something that Sharday and I kind of came up with and just because of an op-ed we saw, but this is really in the medical literature that demonstrates over and over and over again that if you have minority patients, that they're more likely to seek physicians of their own race, and therefore you're going to more likely have those environments be the place where we're going to increase clinical trial diversity.
Yes.
And once again, this was last year, but there was another opportunity for you and I this summer to write to the FDA also. So there was another draft guidance document.
On decentralization. So yeah, this is the title of the guidance document, Decentralized Clinical Trials for Drugs, Biological Products, and Devices. And there's a link to our comments there, but if you'd like to go to the next slide, I'll talk about what I found and what we recommended based on my findings. They were giving recommendations to investigators, sponsors, and stakeholders in clinical trials and research. However, in their outline, they didn't include specific direction for investigators. And so the comment that we had suggested for them to add is that investigators should inherit the accountability for maintaining a diverse population for their studies. And, decentralized studies happen or should be happening to increase the diversity of the population.
Yeah, let's pause for a minute because a lot of people may have never heard this before. Like, what is the difference between a centralized trial and a decentralized? Why is that so new, or what's special about that?
So what's becoming more popular because technology is advancing is that decentralized studies are technically where studies can be done at multiple sites or even in somebody else's home. And centralized trials are typically in one location, which kind of puts people at a disadvantage to participate, especially marginalized communities who lack transportation, lack the funding to get transportation, or just lack the education. And so decentralizing clinical trials I believe, would definitely increase the diversity of the population or the sample populations in these trials.
Yeah. So the theory is that if you have communities like federally qualified healthcare centers that often see Black and diverse populations, that if we could engage more of them and yet allow them to participate in studies that would not normally be there.
Yes.
And that they would not necessarily have to leave their office. They'll go to their doctor. The doctor that they know will talk to them about the study, and that they could start the study right there, not have to give them a piece of paper and a phone number and say, go across town to this centralized trial. So it's new, but I think COVID also helped us with all of this, with the acceleration of the virtual appointments now.
Telehealth.
Yeah. And so I think there's more of a recognition that it can be done, and it can be done safely. And now the FDA is trying to give guidance to both the sponsors of the study, the biopharma companies, as well as the investigators on what to do. But more importantly, to then have this be educating new providers to do so. But yeah, as you said, that even though this guidance came out, we felt that we could improve upon it by trying to get the investigators to take more ownership for the diversity of their studies.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Who is that?
I forgot I put that picture up there. That was my acceptance to Meharry photo.
All right. Well, why don't you tell us a little more about you?
So it's basically an overview of, I guess, myself. Let's begin with what I did over the summer working at Clinical Research Associates with Will Krugman, the director of marketing there, and Dr. Caldwell. And it was very simple. I did a survey looking at, residents at Meharry, the M1s, M2s, M3s, M4s, and basically asked them a series of questions that would lead me to determine whether if they were interested in clinical trial diversity and clinical trials or not. And our findings were conclusive with what we thought. A lot of the people on campus, even talking about it after I conducted my research and conducting the survey, have come up to me and asked me how to get involved. And I think it's very important because when patients see physicians, they either see them in an examination room or they see them in a setting of a clinical trial setting. And that's why it's so important to increase clinical trial diversity so you can increase clinical trial participation with Black and diverse sample populations. Additionally, like I said before, Dr. Caldwell has entrusted me with a lot of things, which is aiding in the planning and the budgeting of the development for the National and Global Center for Clinical Trial Diverstiy. And we also created and maintained relationships with biopharma companies such as Genentech. I know we're visiting them in California after we present at the World Vaccine Congress, and maintaining partnerships as well, such as with Project Cure, Clinical Research Associates. Will Krugman presented with me with a lot of opportunities because I am a CEO of a health tech company right now called Central Health Solutions, where I was able to just learn the inner workings of what a biopharma company does, such as Clinical Research Associates. And then also I was provided the opportunity through Will. His friend David Plazas reached out to me to write about my experience as a Black man in healthcare. And so I kind of took that and ran with it and talked about my mother's journey to America from Panama and how she's influenced me to pursue medicine and just the struggles that we've both had to gone through and where I want to take it. And then that led to another opportunity where I was able to use my voice for Black Latinos or Afro-Latinos, Latino voices early this year, which Dr. Caldwell attended and my parents and some of my classmates. And then lastly, I was also a Dry January. I am also a DryJanuaryUSA research ambassador. If you don't know, DryJanuaryUSA is owned. The license is owned by Meharry Medical College. We're borrowing it from the United Kingdom. And so Dr. Caldwell has been leading the initiative for the past 2 years, I believe. And we have some pretty cool events that are coming up in January that I'm so happy to be a part of. And lastly, ABC News Medical Unit, medical student researcher. We had the opportunity to visit New York, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, where we got to see David Muir in person above and be on the set of Good Morning America, where I got to meet Dr. Jennifer Ashton and DeMarco Morgan, which is a really good experience. And Eric Strauss, can't forget him, love that guy. But yes, I think because of his experience with the ABC News medical unit at, I believe it was NYU, or did you do when you were doing your public health degree at Harvard, right?
Yeah.
And you participated in it, and I think being up there and just talking to you about it, like I think it's very important that, as physicians, they expect us to be as well-rounded as possible because the healthcare landscape is changing. We're not just going to class and learning the inner workings of the body and treating patients. Healthcare is everything. Healthcare is education. Healthcare is sports. Healthcare is right now what we're doing, exercise. So my thing is like, I was very, very, I think the word would be convicted whenever I learned that there are medical correspondents that work every day to make sure that people know what they need to know in regards to their health, in regards to their decision making. And I think that knowledge is power. And so just seeing Dr. Jennifer Ashton in action, I can only imagine what you had to go through with deciding on what to tell basically the whole world at times before COVID, during COVID, after COVID. I think that's a lot of responsibility to be put on one person. So I have a lot of respect for individuals who work in that type of field as a physician. So that's what garnered my interest in that as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and another really exciting development is with our announcement of the new Meharry School of Global Health. One of the main areas of focus will be health communications. So more to come on that. So thank you, Jonathan, for giving us just a little glimpse into all that you do. So we want to reinforce that this now Institute for Clinical Trial Diversity is an academic private partnership. That in itself is unique. It's Meharry Medical College, the academic, and the private clinical research organization. Now this is important because a lot of the clinical research trials are shifting to these private clinical research organizations.
Yes.
So if we're going to make an impact on clinical trial diversity, we need to have a strong partner who is a strong, long time, a successful private clinical research organization.
1990, I believe.
And this is, that's right. They're only a few minutes from Meharry, and what's happening is that they're almost becoming another campus site for Meharry students and the doctors. Now, the Meharry component is our Office of Research and Innovation, and there you can find more information out by Meharry, that website, meharryresearch.org. And then on the right side, you'll see brand new, the meharryglobal.org, the newest school at Meharry. And together, we not only are going to have a national center for clinical trial diversity focusing on the U.S., but looking all across the world. And our main private partner is Clinical Research Associates, right here on 15th and Church Street, and there's their website. Please learn about them. There's always studies that they are recruiting for, a lot of exciting variable therapeutic areas. And we're really pleased that they are partnering with Meharry Medical College. So once again, this is the core of our clinical trial diversity efforts. Wow, there's like news out of Meharry. Again, the last month has been one of the most exciting times to be at Meharry. So
I was lucky enough to be at the one at APHA when Dr. Dawes announced it. I was unable, unfortunately, to be at this one, but I remember you being there and seeing all the posts on LinkedIn. It was very exciting.
Well, let me start then that this was something that has been thought about by our Senior Vice President for Research and Innovation, Dr. Anil Shankar, with Dr. James Hildreth, our president. It is one of the most important developments at Meharry Medical College in a long time. This is a major $80+ million 10-year partnership between Meharry and a number of pharma companies led by Regeneron, and it is focused on building the database, the genomics database for African Americans. The program is called Together for Change, and as you can see by the headline there on the right, the Genomics and Equity Initiative is a coalition with Meharry, Regeneron, AstraZeneca, Novo Nordisk, Roche, and I'm sure they'll be happy to have additional partners. But it's ultimately to improve health outcomes for people of African American ancestry, and we need to increase the genetic information that's available. The National Institutes of Health data shows that only 2% of the genetic information being studied originates from people of African ancestry. So we have a long way to go, and this is exciting, unique, and once again with Meharry leadership. So this was one announcement, and then just a couple weeks later was this one. Now you were there.
Yes, I was, and it was an exciting time. It was an exciting time. When Dr. Dawes was there and Dr. Hildreth as well, and they spoke, it was very riveting. It was, I remember the attendance was like we were kind of overflowing in the room
Yeah.
at APHA. No.
Yeah, and we were graced by having a former Surgeon General, former president of Meharry Medical College, David Satcher was there, also a mentor for Daniel Dawes, who's now going to be the founding dean of the Meharry School of Global Health. So all of this together is building on the energy of what we're here to present to you today, this National Center for Clinical Trial Diverstiy. So we have previously talked to you about 5 domains. Now we're calling it the Institute of Clinical Trial Diverstiy because we realize there's 2 centers now, a national center and a global center. And the core always has been, how do we get more Black and diverse principal investigators? Now they're the most important because their names go on the FDA 1572 form, which if there is any question about the study or the clinical trial site, that is the person with the most authority, most responsible. So we want to increase the diversity of that particular person more than anyone. So that's why we put the focus on giving medical students and physicians more education and training. But we don't want to stop there. We want to reach out to our residents, our alumni, and then identify more globally all Black and diverse physicians who may already be doing clinical trials or may be interested in it. And there are a few other different experiences here that we want to expand for our students, whether there be 4th-year electives or longer, or maybe some longer internships. But the focus of it is to have physician investigator education and training. So we could talk a little bit more about that. At Meharry, every class is about 110 students, and so we really wanted to have the vision to be when the students walk across the stage to get their diploma, they will also get a certificate, every single one of them, that they have had the basic education and training to be a clinical research investigator. So that's what we call Tier 1. All students will get this basic didactic and practice-based certificate. Why don't you go on with how we thought people from that initial experience may want to learn more?
Yeah, so I remember us talking about being able to shadow people like you who actually conduct clinical trials as a sub-PI or a PI at the center on a campus at Meharry, or either like clinical research associates. And then Tier 3 would be something that I did, something like how I did at clinical research associates, which was a summer research experience. When you get plethora of opportunities to plug in different sectors of healthcare, the possibilities are really endless, and it really is what you make it to be. And so the last one, Tier 4, and I like this. I remember you telling me about this yesterday. I think it was the first time I heard it. It was a clinical research diversity scholar with an endowed scholarship. And that would be for students who, I believe we were talking about them participating in that 4th-year elective at one of the biopharma sponsors, also completing all the subsequent requirements.
Yeah, so we are hoping ultimately that we get about 3 students per year to be identified as clinical research diversity scholars, where we'll be able to provide them full funding for their medical school education, and that they'll dedicate themselves to this effort. So it's somewhat of a funnel of, we're going to start with everybody, and
or like a pipeline.
But we do look to 3 students per year being their leaders for their class. So really exciting way we are envisioning this here. Now, the impact this will have is really astounding. We have determined that every graduating physician on average will take care of 40,000 individual patients over their career. And so that means with 110 students graduating from Meharry each year, every graduating school class will be able to connect with 2.5 million individual patients. So just think of that impact. And we want every future Meharry Medical School graduate to have this education and training, to know that you don't need to get a PhD to be a clinical research leader and investigator, and get them to consider maybe themselves to participate and volunteer, get their friends, their family, but even if they are or are not eventually a principal investigator, to know wherever they go in the country or the world, find out where there are local clinical research trials being done and try to get your patients to go there, because it's just so important to increase the diversity. All right. Well, that was our first domain. Why don't you talk about this next one, which we think is really as important?
Oh, yeah. Well, National Data Warehouse of Clinical Trial Diverstiy Investigators. Nowadays, data, and I say that data and networking is king. And so I think it's very valuable to activate these already practicing physicians by connecting them with other physicians that are either interested in being a part of our center or are already part of our Center of Clinical Trial Diverstiy. It makes it easier for collaboration to occur, more clinical trials to occur, and ultimately reaches our goal of increasing clinical trial diversity both on the investigator side and the patient side.
Right. So if we're educating and training all of these Black and diverse doctors and other providers, we want to know who they are in one place that's easy to identify. Right now, there is no national data center.
It does not exist.
We once again believe this is the root cause of clinical trial diversity gaps. If we can increase this pipeline and then have this living data warehouse of these diverse physician investigators, that will really be a resource for all of the sponsors, as well as other doctors who may be interested in learning more about it, to know who they can reach out to that already has experience. So the Meharry Network will help to lead the way on this, not only at our institution, but other historically Black schools, and then more importantly, all across the country. Okay, now we are on to our third domain. Now this was something that Sharday last year brought up in her research, because she encountered a gap or a barrier where she was trying to compare data improvement after an intervention was made. So she found out that even though we see data of racial and ethnic diversity in every study, the quality of that data is really flawed in many cases. A lot of it, the data is either self-reported or missing, and what Sharday had identified is there really needs to be more focus on this, and even an improvement of the science. So what we want to do as part of the Center for Clinical Trial Diverstiy is to build the scientific capacity to identify the quantity and quality scope of this problem of racial and ethnic data quality gaps. We want to demonstrate the gaps in the quality and consistency in the reporting of the clinical research trials. Like, how did the data get from the patient to the clinical research center to the trial? We want to identify best practices. What does good look like and what does not good look like? To really expose it, shine a light where I think a lot of people don't realize that there are flaws. And we believe that this is worth having an annual scientific conference at Meharry in Nashville, Tennessee every year to bring national and global leaders on racial and ethnic diversity, quality. And a lot of these colleagues I met at the U.S. Census Bureau, because they kind of are focused on this, and the National Center for Health Statistics out of CDC. So there are already people working on it, but they're not unified in their purpose, and that's what we want to do with this domain. All right. let's talk about the next one, which we think is really important.
Yeah. You might be able to take this one as well, because I think, isn't this Chardet's work as well?
Yeah, well, I guess evolving from the data, we thought, how do we know if there is a shift to these private clinical research sites?
Okay.
How do we know who does racial and ethnic diversity better than somebody else?
Okay.
Like, what's the score? When you walk into a restaurant now, you get A, B, C, D. And they're rated on something.
So you guys were trying to identify, who does it well, but then who does it better.
Yeah.
And who does it best.
Oh, that's nice to say that everyone's doing good, but some people do it better.
Yeah.
And ultimately, a lot of the clinical trial sites, it's unclear how well they do overall. I mean, they might do 10 or 20 or 30 different studies, and they provide each of their sponsors of the studies what that racial and ethnic diversity data are for that particular study. But depending on the community population where these centers are, depending on the disease being studied and the drug being studied, all of these are variables. So we really believe that this is achievable to come up with some kind of fair diversity score for racial and ethnic diversity to find out who does it well and who could do better. But if you don't start to measure it, we'll never know. And we feel that as a component of our Center for Clinical Trial Diversity, this just makes sense for us to do and to forward. We view this as something that would be voluntary, but we think they'll get some traction. And ultimately, we believe every single center of clinical trials, whether they're academic or private, would want to have a score. And we would also hope that sponsors would very much want to ask for the clinical trial sites that they're working with, what's your score?
Yeah.
And how we determine it. So we're just beginning, but we know that this is something that has been done on other areas of improving healthcare. So why not improving racial and ethnic diversity in clinical trials? It just makes sense. And so here's some more detail about it. It's to develop new research, but also having a standardization tool to measure what is the quality in the racial and ethnic data collection, reporting, and performance in clinical research trials. Now, this is just a natural evolution of what the FDA has put forth in their guidance document. If they want to know that everyone has a racial and ethnic diversity plan, it's like, well, how do you know if it's a good plan or a bad plan?
Yeah.
How do you know if a site's doing it well or not doing it well? So we have a lot of work to do, and this is just another domain-focused way that we can contribute to improving clinical trial diversity overall. Now, finally, the last domain is that we at Meharry Medical College, with our partner Clinical Research Associates, want to be a research demonstration center for improving clinical trial diversity on how can we do it the best we possibly can. So we're really excited about leading the way with this. Now, we already have the announcement of the genomics focus. We want to have a focus on community engagement, how we can also improve data. So this is our vision. This is our goal. And we are so excited to start asking for partners. So one of your classmates, Austin
Walker,
was helping us this summer. And we asked the question, how can we figure out who we should prioritize, who would support us? And Austin came up with this idea of a readiness scale, like who's ready to support Meharry's Center for Clinical Trial Diversity. And so we thought, well, the larger biopharmas or the smaller ones. So his hypothesis was, well, the larger the biopharma you are, you're more ready.
Yeah.
And he came up on the right here. You'll see some of the outcome measures. He said, well, how do you decide if you're ready? Well, you're ready if you are...
Just say their mission aligns with our goals and objectives.
Exactly. And here are some ideas. So if the biopharma that we were researching had some kind of expression on their website that they're committed to clinical trial diversity. They got 1 point.
Okay.
And then all the way to like if they're doing exactly the kind of things that we want to do, which means they're committed to training Black and diverse clinical trial principal investigators, boy, they got 4 points.
Yeah.
And then some other points in between. So what we did was rate all of the top biopharmas. And what we found was that the hypothesis that Austin came up with, which means if you're the biggest biopharma, you're more ready.
Mm-hmm.
And
that wasn't the case, was it?
No, because whether you're a big biopharma or a smaller biopharma, and this is according to your annual revenues, some, all over, we're doing a lot on this, and some are doing a little. So essentially, no matter what type of biopharma company you are, there's a role that you have to play. Mm-hmm. And this leads us to needing you and your support for helping us to continue to evolve our vision, but to become a part and a partner of our vision. So there are leadership and membership opportunities to be part of this Institute for Clinical Trial Diversity, which is now focused both in the U.S. and globally. So please reach out to me or Jonathan. We'll give you his information also. So what can we leave people with about Meharry Medical College? What from what you've said before?
I mean, basically the whole foundation of our slideshow, trying to create a bright future to improve clinical trial diversity, both on the principal investigator side and the patient side. And focusing on building the national and global centers for clinical trial diversity that fall underneath the Institute for Clinical Trial Diversity.
Yeah, and this all emerged from the idea that to save Black lives, we need more Black doctors. Mm-hmm. And to improve clinical trial diversity in the Black and diverse population, we need more principal investigators and the leadership teams to get us there. So the mission of Meharry has always been to serve the underserved. So that guides us to addressing this disparity in both patient volunteers and the workforce through our leadership and all of the other exciting developments that we have going on at Meharry. There's a lot of synergy for what we presented today.
Yes.
So this Institute of Clinical Trial Diversity is not happening in a vacuum. It's happening with all of these other developments at this really special place, Meharry Medical College, which, I am reminded, because I love history too, that the Union Army occupied Nashville for most of the war. Mm-hmm. And what that meant was there were a lot of Black soldiers fighting in the Union Army that were in Nashville. Yep. And when Abraham Lincoln created the Veterans Administration and made a commitment from the country to take care of the veterans, there was nobody that was taking care of the Black veterans from the Civil War. And that is one of the reasons why Meharry Medical College was even created in 1876. And it is still here today. And you're going to be there walking to get your diploma at probably the most important anniversary. So we're really just so excited. Here's our leadership: Dr. James Hildreth, our president. Dr. Jeanette South-Paul is our senior vice president and chief academic officer and provost. Dr. Anil Shankar, the senior vice president for the Office of Research and Innovation, and really this leading that Together for Change Genomics Initiative. Daniel Dawes, our senior vice president, now founding dean of the School of Global Health, and the role that I play as the vice president for vaccine research and education. Here are the websites for Meharry, our research, our global health. Please learn more about us. It's a special place, and we're just really getting started. So that's it. How do you think we did?
I think we did good. Lost my voice there for a second. No,
I think we did.
Great.
I mean, did we get across what we wanted to?
Yeah,
Like now is your chance to say whatever you want to
honestly,
our
you're
friends.
watching this today. Thank you so much for taking the time. This is something that's really close to my heart just because of my experience with healthcare in America, my family's experience with healthcare in America. Everybody who takes the time to watch this, thank you deeply. From me, Dr. Caldwell, and the Meharry family, we're counting on you. So
that's right, but don't stop there. Share it.
Yeah.
Share it. Let other people know. A lot of really special things are happening at Meharry that have substance, and we are leaning into what we do best, which is to increase the health of our Black and diverse populations.
Yep.
We are. We're serving the underserved, and we can't wait to talk to you more and get your feedback. We want to hear your feedback. We want to know if you think we're going in the right direction, and we need your support. We got 110 medical students every year counting on you. And now more public health students and basic science researchers. We're all a team. We're all working together to move us forward. So thank you so much. Hopefully you'll be able to join us at the World Vaccine Congress, West Coast, here at the end of November at the Santa Clara Convention Center. And if not, we are going to be appearing at another scientific conference.
Which one? Forgot.
I don't know,
So
but somewhere close to you, soon, you'll see Jonathan Low. I'm Dr. Michael Caldwell. Thank you so much, and please, share what we're doing here. We appreciate it. Thank you.